Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Yay. Today is day 8 of the Imperfection Sessions. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Thanks so much for listening. For the people who are listening, I hope that you're getting something from this. So today I'm doing this earlier. It's at 10 because I have church later. But I still wanted to show up. So 10 o'clock it is. So here we are. If you're watching or if you're watching later, good morning. This whole week I've been doing sessions on just sharing a little bit of encouragement to other creatives out there and we all talked about how we're all creatives, but just like trying to offer some hope when you feel like you're down on yourself, when you feel like I'm not good enough. I'm trying to remind you that you are good enough. And so there are a lot of benefits to creating that we talked about. I have my guitar here because I'm going to play a song at the end and I'll tell you why. But we have a lot of things that as creatives we need to work through. We have a lot of trauma, a lot of issues, a lot of stress, especially if you're trying to market yourself as a creative or you're trying to make a living, like with your business, especially if it's like a heart-based business, like something you're really passionate about. So there's many benefits to creating. Like we can make money, but it comes with its own set of, I guess, stressors too. So you can make money, you can process traumatic and painful experiences, you can gift things to someone else, and it just feels good. Sometimes it just feels good to create. But one of the benefits that I don't want us to miss is the ability to commune and connect with God. So I like to use art as a meditative process as well. And it's just the fact that making things requires you to slow down. Life is so busy, it's so noisy. There's so many things that are distracting us, like whether it's social media, whether it's our jobs, or like the pressure to be great, the pressure to be everything but ourselves, that sometimes we lose ourselves in like the fray and the mess and the confusion and the chaos. And one of the things that art does is centers us. It requires you to slow down. So whether you're making things with your hands or writing something, it requires your full attention. It requires you to be present. It requires you to get quiet sometimes. Like sometimes you can create and like listen to music, but a lot of times you're so engrossed in what you're doing that music is really just like background noise. You're really just focusing on like what's happening. So it's requiring you to get honest with yourself. It's requiring you to recenter yourself. And it's helping you to take care of yourself. And also, like I said, to connect with God. So let's talk about gardening as an example. So my mother's a gardener and we've been helping her like put it together and stuff. And it's really cool to see her like be inspired from what she's creating with her own hands and how passionate she is about plants in general. She has a green thumb. I'm trying to get that green thumb, but the house is full of plants. Like plants are her thing. And so I see her watering her plants. I see her talking to her plants. I see her taking care of it. And that the way that she cultivates her garden, the way that she cultivates the plants in her house, it's a slow meditative practice. You can't force something to grow. You can't rush it in its process, right? You're really just co-creating with God. Like that plant is going to bloom when it decides to bloom. You know what I mean? And when it does bloom, because of all the work that she put in there, because of all of the focus and attention she put on that plant, it brings so much reward, even though it might just be like a flower, right, on a cactus. Like that flower on that cactus is so refreshing and so rewarding because of the work that you put in to that process. So gardening is a good example for what I'm about to say, that we are co-creators with God, right? So we didn't make the seed, we didn't make the plant, we didn't make the fruit or whatever you're trying to grow if you're talking about gardening. But what we can do is use that to co-create with him. So it's almost like, so we didn't give ourselves our voices, we didn't give ourselves our writing, we didn't give ourselves our it's the things that we're inspired by, right? We didn't give those things to ourselves. But it's almost like, if we're sticking with the gardening issue, like the seeds, like our talent are our seeds, right? Our interests are the seeds that God gave us. And so God is using those seeds, right? And it's almost like he's giving you a paintbrush and like a whole bunch of paint and like a canvas and saying, go have fun. Like just create something, right? I talked about earlier how the benefit of being creative is that it's not life or death. Like no one is like, we're not cutting anybody open. We're not like trying to resuscitate anybody back to life, physically. But art is what makes life better. Art is what makes life more enjoyable. And so using that, so we have the gifts, we have the seeds, and then we have the freedom to create whatever we want to create. You know what I mean? Like, so the seeds. So you can use that to plant a garden to grow food for you to eat. You can use it to plant a garden to grow food for your friends. You can just make a garden of flowers because it just looks pretty, because it looks beautiful. Like there are people who make whole careers out of being florists and out of being like landscape designers. And like they literally, they have to, it's a science to it. Yes. Like there is some work that goes into figuring out what plants are friendly with what plants and how to make things grow and that kind of thing. But it's really just a lot of fun, right? Like these people are, when you remove all the business out of it, they're just creating a painting. Like they've just been given a canvas and they're creating. You look at interior designers, people can walk in a room and see so much potential. I don't have that gift, but people can walk into a room and be like, you know what, this can go here and this can go there. It's really like God is giving us the paintbrush and like I said, a whole bunch of paint and saying, do with this what you want to do with it. Make it amazing. And the beautiful thing about that is that God is not like, oh, it has to be like this. It has to do this. He's not rigid like that. He's like, I take joy in seeing what you create. That's the thing. He created us, right? He knows what makes us tick. He knows what we enjoy. He knows what's gonna encourage us and inspire us. And so he already knows the kind of stuff that we're gonna make anyway, right? So I'm gonna go back. When I first started writing songs, I felt like I had to write gospel songs. And, because I'm like, oh, I'm a Christian, I have to write gospel songs. It has to, be like, it has to include choirs and all this stuff. And later on, I was like, nah, I don't want to write gospel songs, like not explicitly gospel songs. I do write some songs like talking about God and my relationship with him and talking about his goodness and his amazingness and his beauty. But I felt like that was really boxing me in. And so for a lot of Christians, they'd be like, oh, well, if you sing secular music, then you can't be an artist. And I struggled with that for a while because I'm like, but God, I have things to say. And it's not necessarily talking about like, Jesus is good, God is great, awesome, awesome, awesome all the time. I was like, no, I have the hard things to talk about too. Like when I don't want to live, when I don't want to, when my friend broke my heart, like these things are considered secular, right? But what does secular really even mean? Secular just means anything that's not necessarily, that's not like directly, like, I guess we have made it mean something that's directly not glorifying God. Like if it's not explicitly Christian, then people automatically deem it as secular. But isn't our human experiences a reflection of our relationship with him? Like if I sing about the trees and how beautiful they are, do they not reflect God's beauty? Do they not reflect his glory? And so therefore, if I sing about the trees, am I now a secular artist? Am I bad? Right. So I struggled with that a lot. And I really felt like later on, God gave me the freedom to be like, no, I gave you your voice. I gave you your experiences. And I gave you the ability to put words together in a way that people can understand and it resonates with other people. Right. So it's not necessarily like, oh, God is amazing, because I've also written a song about like, God, I don't like being a Christian. This is frustrating. This is annoying. Like, I hate this right now. And I feel like even he gets glory from that because I'm being honest. I'm being authentically myself. And yeah, so I feel like we have to take these restraints off of artists, restraints off of ourselves, to feel like we're Christian enough to create, because I really feel like God just takes joy in the process of us creating, and the fact that we would take what he gave us to be like, okay, God, I'm gonna make something out of this. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna make a lesson. I'm gonna teach somebody something. I'm going to, like, with the wisdom you've given me, I'm gonna impart that knowledge on, like, into another child, into another person. Like, I feel like that gives him joy. That brings him joy. Not necessarily how it's done, but like the fact that we're willing to do it in the first place. And I feel like later on, he'll guide us if he wants us to in a different way. So seeing what we can create with him brings him joy, like I said, and also brings us joy. Like when we're planting those seeds and stuff like that, and it's growing and we see the beauty and it's like, oh my God, like this is amazing. Look what we created. Like, look, God, look what we made together. Right. Because again, he gave the seed and like we're designing and where we want to plant it. And like, so those landscape designers, they're like, okay, I want some, I don't know. Ooh, I want some tulips over here and like some sunflowers over here. I don't know. Like I'm not a designer in the least, but they have that knowledge and that skill, and it brings glory to God. Also, being in nature just kind of calms you. Being slow and process, being slow. Like when we were RVing, like being out there in the nature and just in the environment of like trees and like birds, it really overwhelms you sometimes, but it also humbles you, right? Because it's like, wow, like I ain't nothing. And I don't even mean that to be like self-deprecating. I mean like, no, God, like you created all of this. And all my problems, like to a God who creates the stars in the sky, and to a God who, like, this is light work for you. Like, I don't know the first thing about creating a star. I don't know. Like, we know how stars can be created, but I've never met a person who's created a star, right? And so we take these problems to God, and it's like, oh God, this is overwhelming. I'm so stressed out. And when I really sit there and focus on like the majesty and the beauty of him, I realize, okay, like, you got me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got me. I can't do this. You know, you can do this. And you can. And a lot of times I present it to him to be like, this is something only you can do. I can't do this in my own strength. So like I said, talking about the gardening example, when you're slow and deliberate, it requires you to slow down and really just be present in the moment, not worried about what's going on tomorrow. Like, yes, you can plant with the hope of tomorrow, right? Like, we plant plants because we're hoping that they grow into something, that they live, that they survive, that they break open, that the birds don't come and snatch the seeds away. You know what I'm saying? Like, we hope we plant with hope, but we have to do what we have to do day to day to see that hope actually carried out. And so doing that work every day helps us to focus and hone in on what we can do with today, which is all we have. All we have is today. So it takes time to grow a garden. Like I said, the world moves so fast, and like they will tell you, like, if it's not done right now, if you don't see the results right now, there's no point in doing it. And I feel like we're guilty of doing that too. But creating honestly and authentically allows you to be present. Creating authentically and honest also allows you to be raw and honest with God, right? There are times when I'm playing the guitar, I don't have words to these songs. I don't know, like, you know, I'm just playing and I'm just sitting here and being in the moment. And sometimes the words come and I'm overwhelmed by the words that I say. And these words I'm not actively thinking about what I'm saying. What I'm saying is true. And so for a long time, maybe I haven't been able to put words to my feelings, words to, you know, what I want to communicate. And then while I'm strumming and really just being present and focused on this exercise, on this moment, the words actually come up. I'm not at a loss for words anymore. And then I'm overwhelmed and I'm crying. Like, there has been instances of that where I'm just where my songs kind of turn into a prayer. My songs kind of turn into a prayer or like a venting session. There's a song that I have called Struggle. And literally that song is just a venting session. Like I was playing it and I'm just like, God, and that's the song I'm talking about when I'm talking about, like, I don't like being a Christian right now. Like, it's frustrating. And I was just venting to God. And it turned into a song. Like, the words I felt like I didn't have, they finally came. I just was writing just like vigorously and really just being honest about what I felt and how frustrated I was in that moment. And I think what happens is, like, as a Christian, like, you have to pretend that you're happy all the time or hopeful or, you know, in good spirits. And in that moment, I was able to let down all that stuff, take off all these expectations of me being a Christian, but also me that I put on myself. And I was able to be honest and authentic with God. And so, you know, it's a great tool to reconnect with God, but it's also a great tool to connect with yourself, because sometimes you don't know what you're feeling and you need those moments of quiet, of being calm, of being deliberate, of being focused on one thing, to really hone in into what you need and what you're feeling. And so, yes, creating replenishes you. There are times when I'm in the groove, like I feel like creatives understand what they're talking about. Like, you're doing something and and it's not even just creatives, whatever you're doing, whatever you're passionate about, you're doing something and then you look up and 4 hours have passed. You're like, what the heck? Like, what happened to time? Because you got lost in that groove. Like, you got lost in your thing. And you come out of that thing usually like, oh, I don't want to end right now. Or even if you're content, right? You don't feel exhausted. You don't feel depleted. You feel like on fire, like you can do more. You feel like you have purpose. You feel like you have like a second wind, you know what I mean? And when you're creating and when you're focused on those things, time will fly by. Time will fly by, and then you don't feel burnt out. You'll feel replenished. So that's another benefit. So other benefits of making things, like just making things or just focusing on things that could be a meditative practice for you, relieving stress, like, there are so many times that I forget to breathe. Like, I'm sitting here, like, even just now, my shoulders were just like this a lot, right? I have to remind myself to bring down my shoulders. I have to remind myself to take a deep breath. I have to remind myself, like, to not clench my jaw. You know, these are things that when you're stressed out, you don't even realize that you're doing. But when you're doing like these meditative practices, even though your posture might be bad, because that's something I struggle with, you release a little bit. When you get those things off your chest, off your heart, when you use the art to like process trauma or to process anger or resentment or confusion, like you have it out. It's like, okay. And you can do this by journaling too. You don't just have to like make a song. You can do this by journaling. You can do this by using that fuel, like that pain as fuel to create something, one, just for yourself, but then it also might end up helping somebody else. Just like the song I talked about, the struggle song, a lot of people resonated with that. And to me, I felt like, why? Like there's no resolution at the end of the song. It's just like, life sucks, the end. Like that's the whole song. But people heard it and was like, I get that. She gets me, you know? And I feel like we need more people to be vulnerable and honest in their art, but also just vulnerable and honest with themselves first. Another benefit is that it relieves depression. Like I said, getting that stuff out, having something to do with your hands, not sitting in your sadness. And I want to say this, like, if you struggle with depression, because I do, I also understand sometimes you just need days just to sulk. Sometimes you just need days to be sad. Sometimes you need to allow yourself to feel those feelings and not force yourself to be something that you're not. If you're not capable of being happy, that's okay. Like, don't be happy, be honest. You're sad, you know, but also realize the benefit in creating something, like create something, do something, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's just getting out in nature and just sitting in awe and in wonder and not having necessarily to do anything, but just be there, just be present. It also helps you creating things, helps you to rediscover old passions. You know, when we were younger, we would finger paint and stuff and it would be so much fun. Maybe you realize that you like doing things with your hands. Maybe you realize that this is something you enjoy. My great grandma taught me how to crochet. And so using that now, like sometimes just like the pattern of going in and out and pulling through and going in and out and pulling through, even though it's simple, I'm not really making a blanket or anything, right? That process of just like the pattern, or like snapping peas, right? Like snapping green beans, like end, half, throw, right? Just the pattern of doing those things sometimes feel meditative, like they feel like a practice. They feel like, and it's grounding because it's something that you can like put your feet on, so to speak. Also lowering blood pressure. Like I said, if you're relieving stress, you're lowering your blood pressure. You're raising like your happy feelings and stuff like that, and processing the day. And like I said, also connecting with yourself. But most importantly, like being honest with yourself, right? I feel like that goes hand in hand with connecting to God. God wants your honest. If you're mad, be mad. If you don't get it, tell him you don't get it. If you're sad, be sad. Like we make this mistake in thinking that we have to show up perfect. And sometimes it's just being honest, being disheveled, being like, yo, I'm broken. Like, what is going on? Like, I'm going to show up and do this thing. But I ain't got nothing happy for you, God. I have myself. I have honesty. And so, and so connecting with yourself in turn helps you to connect with God. And that's the major benefit of creating, the major benefit of crafting, of, I don't know, being out in nature, cultivating, is really one, seeing like the hand of God working, but also encouraging you to see like, okay, the creator of the universe, the creator of this, like this seed, this thing with so much potential, like in a seed is a potential for a tree. And it's like, who did that but God, right? And so it allows you to sit there and like awe and wonder. There are some songs I listen to that are secular, and it just sends me into worship, because I'm just like, God, you made these strings, you made these pianos, you made this person's voice, you wrote this song. You know what I'm saying? Like you gave them the ability to do this. And while I do celebrate the artist, you know, for being like a conduit, for being a vessel, right, to being open to co-creating with him, I know where all of that comes from. Like, he is the creator of all good things. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to celebrate you. So there are some songs I listen to and I just start crying. I'm like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. Like, God, you're so beautiful. And I feel like we need more of those moments. Like I said, I'm going to play a song that I'm learning. So y'all, like I said before, it's about showing up and trying, right? So the song is a hymn. It's What a Friend We Have in Jesus. I've been learning on my guitar. And I'm going to play the first and second to last verse, because the second to last verse is talking about like the words. I'm just go down to the words. The word says, are we weak and heavy laden, cumbered with a load of care? Precious Savior, still our refuge, take it to the Lord in prayer. Do thy friends despise, forsake thee? Take it to the Lord in prayer. In his arms he'll take and shield thee. That will find us a solace there. So the last project I put out, Matter. So not play, but Matter. There was a song on there. Basically, a lot of the songs on there were about losing friends. It was about, it was basically like a therapy session. Like, I just had to get things off my chest. My friends broke my heart. And these are people that I was in, you know, relationship with for a while. And I just showed up making music as a process, like to process the pain and the heartache that I was feeling, but also to be like, yo, God, this sucks. What is it? What's up with this? Like, telling God that, sometimes I didn't feel like living, like struggling with depression is so much. But this hymn, like whenever I play it, it just feels like a prayer. So I'm going to play this song and y'all bear with me. What a friend we have in Jesus. All our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pains we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. So I'm gonna go down to the second to last verse. Okay. Are we weak and heavy laden, cumbered with a load of care? Precious Savior, still our refuge. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Do thy friends despise, forsake thee? Take it to the Lord in prayer. In his arms he'll take and shield thee. Thou wilt find the solace there. Thou wilt find the solace there. So yeah, that was to me a meditative practice. Just playing that song and like playing, I used to play that verse over and over and over again. Do thy friends despise, forsake thee? I'm like, yes, they do, and take it to the Lord in prayer. And I would just play this song and I would end up feeling a little lighter. I'm not gonna say healed, but just a little lighter. And so that's my point for today. Using the gifts that God gave you, which is creating, which is co-creating with him. Creating is a gift and he's given it to you, and you should use it, one, to center yourself, but also to connect with him, to admire him, to admire the works of his hand, to admire your voice, to admire the songs that people have written that speak to you, that move you. I just challenge you, like whatever you feel like, oh, this is nice, whether it's a conversation with a friend, whether it's, like I said, going out in nature and seeing something beautiful, take that time to really be like, God, you made this. You know what I'm saying? You created this and you're amazing. So I hope this was helpful. Have a wonderful Sunday, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Okay, so bye.